So I don't know if you've experienced this, but somebody in my family just challenged me about going on the carnivore diet and told me that they had looked into all of this, and it's good for the short term, but it's not really good. And best basically is the best diet to be on is full vegetables. There was this one, I watched this one documentary a number of years ago. My youngest daughter was diagnosed with MS when she was 23, I think it was. And during that time, I started really, really searching, and she was searching, and she ran across this one doctor who cured herself from MS, and she was eating mega amounts, like doing smoothies of vegetables in really huge amounts. And so the TED Talk said that she brought herself out of being paralyzed from being had to even be in an inverted bed because her heart and her blood pressure would just go right down. So at that time, I went on this diet that she had recommended because of all the health issues that I had. So I went on that for a really long time, for about a year. I bought at that time my really mega blender. It was a Montel Williams blender because it could even heat it up into soup if you wanted to. So with my garden, I did these smoothies. I hope you guys can hear me. And that was soon after, maybe a year or so after my daughter got her diagnosis, around that time. And so I really mega did this, and I was having like 3 of these smoothies a day. I wasn't really eating anything else, and I wasn't eating much meat or anything. If I was even, I can't even remember. I just remember that I was hoping and hoping and hoping that this was going to take away the illness, like what I was going through, because I was suffering really bad at that time. And I kept on hoping, so I kept on guzzling down these, and they were just putrid. They were putrid. You know, I was doing the beet leaves and the kale and all of that, and I never got better. Matter of fact, during that period of time, my arthritis was really increasing. And so I went and did this, and I was challenged by this person saying that that's what I need to go back to. But let me tell you a little bit about my history that even this person may not even understand, even though they're a family member and think that they know my health records. But I basically stuck to that kind of a lifestyle off and on throughout my whole life. I've stayed a vegan or a vegetarian for sure. Vegetarian that from time to time, because this is the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian, if you guys don't know, is a vegetarian can have eggs and cheese and milk products if they choose. There's different levels of vegetarians, right? And some even consider that they have fish and chicken. So that can even be a part of a vegetarian lifestyle. But a vegan takes out completely everything, all of even the eggs and the cheeses and stuff. So like I said, there's different levels. So basically vegan is completely eliminating any animal protein or fats. Vegetarians are, it depends on the degree in it. And they're just like Christians. They'll fight amongst each other as to, and I'll probably get a lot of comments in here saying, that isn't a vegetarian. And other ones will say, that is, so anyways, the same thing. You get that kind of crazy fighting amongst that they're right and the other person's wrong. So I have stuck towards having very little meat in my diet throughout my whole life. And there was periods of time where I ate meat, but I was really one of those kind of people that the animal cruelty really bothered me. So I really ate as little. I would be eating a hamburger and I would be thinking about the killing and slaughtering. It was there in my, programming that I had from the school system and TV. I'm sure it was, because I wasn't a farm girl, so I wasn't raised with that. I was a very city dweller and, believed, like so many people felt at the time of when all of the truckers were going down there, that they didn't care about the truckers because, they didn't have to worry about their food or the farmers or anything because the grocery stores give it all to them. Anyways, I hope you guys can hear. The wind isn't bothering so bad. Here comes my doggy. So I live this kind of, really restrictive. And it was really all self, and I kind of preached that. I even did a couple of videos on ancient books that I found that were of the in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I made a couple of videos on them because they were talking about being vegetarians, and I thought, oh, cool! Look, even they were doing that. The Essenes were doing that. So I was really into this, and this was my lifestyle off and on throughout my whole life, and. From the time that I was a little child, because this was one of the things that was brought up, that what Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson are all talking about was just this really rare, special case of Michaela Peterson's, that most people health is not like that. And when I did bring up that I think that my health was pretty much scripted by Michaela Peterson as a child. Before the age of, I think I was 13 years old, I had my tonsils, my adenoids, my appendix. I had tumors growing. I had one removed from my breast. I had my eyes rapidly degraded, where I had to start wearing glasses. I had been diagnosed with juvenile arthritis and had been hospitalized for anemia and different things like that. So and that was just before 13, and that wasn't including and I had one really strange thing. And this is what I was telling this person about, and I made the mistake of telling this because I don't really know what happened, because I was about 12, and I woke up in the morning. My hand was about the size of a ball mitt, and I was just in an agony, and I have no memory of what happened about it. And I was taken to the hospital in the emergency, and they put in a bone of some other thing. They put a bone in my finger because they had to replace my bone in my finger, and they said that they sucked out my bone because it was basically liquefied. My doctor, when he talked to me later, he said, well, you must have repeatedly, we don't know, like they were asking me, what happened to me? I don't know what happened to me. I have no memory of anything except for that I woke up and my hand was like this. And up until that point, though, I was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis in my hands, and I was wearing, I was having a really hard time with that hand prior to that as well. So I don't know. I know I told people what the doctor said, that I must have been hitting it against the wall repeatedly when I went through doors, that it liquefied my hand, but I truly have but that was another one of these crazy things that happened. And that made me think about it when Michaela Peterson was talking about like that her ankle had to be replaced because the bone deteriorated, and then she had the same thing done with her hip. So she had these kind of spontaneous deterioration of the joints, that possibly that they didn't know what they were looking at all those decades ago when they were dealing with me on these issues. So I tried to bring up to this person, but they cut me off, right? Cut me off and accused me of lying about all of this. And these are like just what I went through. Basically, this is what I went through, and then it went from there. As a young woman, I went through so many more operations, like half my thyroid out because of a tumor, and I had to get my uterus out because of massive tumors, and I could have saved it and had DNCs and things like that. But these were the issues that I continued to experience even in my adult life, along with later on being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. And so, and during this time, as I showed you through previous ones, all the different things that medications and just health food stuff, trying to to heal myself, to get myself to have some energy. I'm a mother of 4, so I had a lot of responsibility and a lot during that time. I was a single parent as well. So I was going through these really massive periods of time of extreme illness. And I went through one that lasted 8 years from the time I was 32 years old until I was about 32. Couldn't have been 8 years. Because by the time I started, that's probably why I think 8, because by the time I was working again, I was 38. So I went through this period of time, and during that period of time, I had to walk with a cane, and it was horrendous. It was a horrible time that I worked my way out, and I worked my way out through diet. And at that time, I got rid of how I got back is I did a full cleanse. I did a full complete cleanse to try to get rid of heavy metals and toxins and stuff like that. And then I went and I got rid of all breads and rices, and I did completely that. And that would have been about 98. That when I did that, and so I picked my health back up and I started working. And then got into a relationship and started eating bad again, started eating pastas and all of that kind of stuff. And so I have had bouts of that illness, but never as bad as it was there, because I really did try to limit at least sugars and carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. But I was still never gained full health. And so, like, to bring it up to today, what was happening to me back before February 15th that made me decide to go full carnivore, because that's what I ended up doing, was that the arthritis had I've been having really bad episodes up and down with arthritis over the past few years, on crutches again, and even being non-mobile for about 3 weeks. And then starting to drift back in there. And along with that, my brain was so clouded that my thinking, and I was in severe depression. And I had stopped driving. I couldn't carry anything up the stairs because my legs were so swollen. And I was very depressed by the condition that I was in. I was very ill. And so I was at that desperate state that I found myself. So I listened to a little bit of what was going on about Michaela Peterson, and I immediately recognized the similarities from my childhood up until now. And I'm telling you, I'm 64 years old, so I really lived through this. My children have too. They've lived through that. It was sad for my children to have to live with a chronically ill mother that tried her best at everything, but would just have these periods of time that would knock me right off my feet, literally. And so when I started in February, the carnivore diet from this, it was, like all the pills in the world and all of the smoothies, kale smoothies and going vegan and everything like that, and trying to purify my body never got me anything. That with the 2 weeks, within a week, I never felt better. And if you go back on my videos, you'll see it. Within a week, I was talking. I had to make videos because I was feeling so different than I ever had in my life. It never had this energy in it. And that's why I started chronically. Those videos in the beginning weren't really meant for a channel. It was kind of, I made them earlier, and I thought, well, maybe a possibility. So I'll kind of make them like that. But they were really more for my own privacy, for my memory, so I could go back and see whether this does work, because that's what I learned to do. I learned to really test things, see whether they work, instead of just continue staying on something. So this is what I was doing with the carnivore diet. And as I was putting out videos, like every couple of weeks, of the progress, and when I go back and I look at it to where I am today, about how my depression started to go away, that was one of the first ones that just went away so quickly. And just so many things, so many illnesses, like even my fingernails and stuff, like the crazy bumps and ridges are all going away, and so many things about and the weight came off, right? I'm in my 20s, now I'm in my 20 weight now, and it's building up. I'm getting better at it because the muscle, I have to build the muscle still. I'm still working on that. So I don't look in my 20s. I look, but yeah, just so much. Just to be able to carry groceries up and down and to like cleaning up this. Like we've been doing so much work for this, all the stuff that we're going to burn, and we've been working around here. And yeah, I had a couple of days where I'm on crutches again because there is still damage in my knees. I still have damage in my knees that needs to heal, and it has 100%. I was really pushing myself, and I was eating berries at that time. But each and every time that I brought back of food, because that's what I've been doing. It's a like elimination diet. I eliminated these things from my diet, and then I brought them back a couple of times. And that's what you have to do. And I would see the reactions that my body would. And I was eating berries for a longer period of time a few weeks ago. And then my knees gave out again. So it's just, and they quickly, because I stopped doing that, and they quickly, rapidly, I was back on my feet, and I was pulling and tugging and lifting, and I mean, like I'm lifting things that are like 50 pounds and I'm carrying them, like a football field almost, where I couldn't even carry up my laundry up my stairs when I started this. Like my health is so improved. I've never felt like this in my life. So when this family member was criticizing me for doing this and that I was just trying to be a follower, I'm going to follow this health that I've gained, and just everything isn't perfect, but I never at 64 years old ever thought that, especially from the last few years, that I'd be riding 6 or 7 miles a day, that I would go for long walks, that I'd be cleaning my yard and doing my own everything and driving back again. Like I thought those things were over for me. I thought my life was just going to go from this point. Instead, I am doing things that I have not been able to do for decades. Like I am, I shouldn't say that's not true. I've always tried to be as fit as possible. But the difference was before, when I would go for a run or go for a bike ride, is I would come home and that would be it. That would be my energy spent doing that. And I would spend the rest of the day on the couch, not being able to move. This is the difference of me now then, is that now I'm eager to go to the next chore, which is kind of hard on the rest of the family. I'm eager because I just need a hand to help me get it going, because I have the energy now. And when I go to bed, I fall asleep and I sleep. Last few nights, I haven't been sleeping as well. So I'm going to start taking magnesium, and that's helps you with the sleep. So I know I listen to my body. I know when I need to take zinc, and I know when I need to take magnesium, and I know when I need to have more fat in my diet. I've learned so much over this past time. It is now, what is it, September? I don't know, early September. Kids just went to school. Can't remember the date. I don't live in the real world, guys. I just don't pay attention to a lot of that. I live in my world, and this is my world. But if only I would have understood a lot of this when I was younger, when I was a young woman, and would have really taken out. Obviously, there is something in my system, whether you're like that, whether you're like me. But what I found is when I started telling my story, my health story, and the progression, and how quickly I got better, and how my life is just like drastically changed physically and mentally, I found you guys all started telling me the same story. So it's not a coincidence. Caleb's story is not an exception to the rule. She's the rule. She's the reason why so many people are obese, or not she is. What went through her, so many people have went through these health issues. Maybe mine is a little more extreme than other people, but other people's are much more extreme than mine. And have the same cause, have the same reason why their health is deteriorating. So this is kind of just, if that person is in my family, if you are listening, this is the whole story. This is what I've been doing. And until I start to feel bad at doing it this way, I will continue. I'm not foolish. I won't do something like I have in the past by only eating vegetables and never got better. I think I've learned enough and my brain is woken up because giving it meat and fat has actually made me more intelligent, has made me calmer. I'm truly can reason and carry on. I couldn't even carry on a conversation. I stuttered all the time. Like I've had so many health issues that even made it difficult for me to communicate with you guys or with anybody. Just a lag in the brain. As you can tell through this conversation, there ain't no lag. Live and love and light. I love y'all. Talk to you later.